Okay, this video is channel highlights for the year 2024. A couple milestones. We've got for this channel now over 2 million views. So thank you for all the people watching it, learning from it, enjoying from it. This year I wrote 5 books. I made a video about that. Miracle year for writing books. The best theory of dementia. You know, the Peter Rogers neurovascular uncoupling theory. Really supply and demand theory, where metabolic rate is not getting enough oxygen, glucose, as well as mitochondrial function to make adequate amounts of ATP, so the neurons are dying. I see demented patients all day, every day, and it's sad. And it's easily preventable, most of it, but, you know, the most common disease is not just aging and genetics, it's ignorance, okay? The most common genetic disease is ignorance because the young people aren't taught and they go through life not knowing how to eat and take care of themselves. I've got the best theory in the world of dementia, the best theory in the world of spine degeneration. I recently, made a video about my mitochondrial inhibitor theory of cancer and immune dysfunction. For my spinal degeneration theory, I wrote a book about it. And here's the book. Ischemic spine is the most common cause of back pain, as well as F- and GP, and the way the degenerative changes progress from the sacrum up to the cervical spine. There were some old papers on degenerative disc disease association with atherosclerosis, but no one ever put it all together like I have done. And it's not just degenerative disc disease. It's also DISH. It's also OPLL. It's also OLF. It's also Bastrup's. It's also F-, and it's also GP. I figured out all that stuff. Okay, here is my mitochondrial inhibitor theory. Basically, it's just an extension of the Warburg theory of cancer. The point being is the most common way you injure the mitochondria is due to hypoxia. But you can also injure the mitochondria due to these toxins, and there's so many of them, it's good to be aware of that. If you look through all your biochemistry books, you'll find almost none. I knew there were mitochondrial toxins because, fat inhibits the mitochondria, intermitochondrial membrane, saturated fat especially. And so I sort of came across that, went through all my biochem books. I got about 7 of them, and there was nothing. So then I went through the papers, and I found tons of them. I quickly found over 50 mitochondrial inhibitors, and these are real common. Look at this: Tylenol, metformin for diabetes, statins for cholesterol, antifungals, mold inhibitors in all the processed food, propofol, a common sedative, SSRI, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors for depression. Common chemicals like TCE, trichloroethylene for dry cleaning, antipsychotics, Haldol. It goes on and on. Lead, mercury, bisphenol A, the estrogenic chemical, F- in your water, please. Al in your water, please. Foods so-called fortified with iron, making it iron toxic. Food dyes. It goes on and on. So I have a whole bunch of lectures about that, but basically people's mitochondria are being poisoned. I made a chart, showing all the different diseases. So basically, American diet, you're screwed with all the high fat and all the animal protein. The East Asian diet, Japan, Korea, China, they used to be reasonably well off. They screwed up because they smoked too much cigarettes, ate too much salt, but they were relatively healthy. The South Asians, like the people from India, people who eat an Indian diet, I used to think they were super healthy, but their problem with screwing them up is all the fried foods, and I helped figure that out because of the Tetsumori Yamashima Japanese guy's data on lipid peroxidation when he tried to figure out why are so many Japanese people getting sick and demented now as a new thing. And it's because they're eating more westernized diet, but especially more fried food. And look at this. Here's the low-fat, low-sodium vegan diet. You're better off in every single category. There is no competition. Paleo, keto, carnivore, it's all a joke. And also there's moderate levels of fat, the high-fat phony vegans, I call them. I also think they're doing a disservice to the patients. That's why I talk about it, and that's what got me in trouble, but it's the truth. Okay, I studied all this stuff on leaky gut, and I was real fascinated to learn not only about amyloidogenic clotting, the atherisia pretorius and Douglas Kell work, but also the fact that anything that opens up the gut barrier quite often is associated with opening up the blood-brain barrier and vice versa. Blood-brain barrier being opened up by a stroke or traumatic brain injury opens up the gut barrier, and it's a double whammy because now you can get a toxin from the gut to go up to the brain. So the point of it all is, and I taught the neurologists, is you guys should be also managing their leaky gut, their fiber issues. So you protect the brain in that, post-trauma state or post-cerebral infarct stroke state, so that toxins that are now able to get across the leaky gut don't also simultaneously have increased access across the open blood-brain barrier. Okay, so I went through all this amyloidogenic stuff, which is a real interesting, useful thing, and I think it has much more widespread application than is commonly recognized. Okay, these are some of the books. I wrote 5 books this year, and these are big books too. The best book ever written on cancer, the best book ever written on dementia. And if you think there's a better book on dementia, go ahead, compare mine to them, okay? Look at Shirzai's book. Shirzai's are nice. They're a nice couple. They're better than other neurologists for dementia. But if you read their book compared to mine, I think any reasonable person would conclude it's a baby book compared to mine. There's no comparison. Okay, some of my nicknames, of course, Spartan Vegan for the Spartan Vegan diet, former college wrestler, and it's a sparse, cheap diet. Bad boy of veganism, because I talk about toxicology. Almost nobody will talk about toxicology because it gets you shadow, banned. Okay, what else does it do? It makes you unpopular. Look at it, almost no one will interview me. They won't interview me because they're afraid I'll criticize whatever supplement they sell, which I would never do, but that's what they're afraid of. They're afraid I'll steal their audience because I know more than they do. But whatever it is, they won't interview me. And this includes all these famous ones, That's why I'm not on any of the shows, because they don't want to interview me. Okay, another nickname I jokingly wrote in my books, I used to have a character called Plant Man Prometheus. And this is what it's like, the smarter you get and the better work you do in nutritional or health medicine, the more conventional medicine just hates you. And like I said, too, even nutrition medicine will hate me and won't speak to me because I criticize supplements and I talk about toxicology. Those are unpopular things. You say something negative about soy, about coffee, about MSG, about omega-3s. You don't get invited anywhere. I'm never invited. I haven't been invited to a single national meeting. I haven't been invited to any of this stuff. And, my attitude is, look, you know what? I'm not going to kiss your ass. I'm not some little social chit-chat person. I'm going to be the best doctor in the world. I think I already am. And I know you're going to say, oh, there's all these other famous nutrition doctors. I don't bullshit you. Okay, most of them are playing what I would call the 70-30 game, the 80-20 game, where they'll tell you 70% of correct information so you respect them and appreciate them. But then they lie to you on other really important stuff. I don't lie to you. I haven't lied to you on anything. I haven't told you to play Russian roulette. I haven't told you to eat all this crap. I haven't told you to do all this stupid stuff that they tell you to do. I don't tell you to get a vasectomy and give yourself pain in the scrotum for the rest of your life. Other stupid bullshit advice like that. No, I tell you the truth, and you could take it or leave it. Okay, the best nickname for me is the medical monk. And some people don't like that. Well, again, I know for a fact I have studied current events much more than most people. My ancestors, on my father's side are Irish. They've been slaves of the British for about 1,000 years. So I'm very familiar with that history. My mother's side is Puerto Rican, and I can tell you the USA imperialists, when they took over Puerto Rico, somebody would hold a Puerto Rican flag up in the street, they would just shoot them with a gun, okay? So not a lot of respect there, okay? And then people say, oh, well, why am I so critical of atheism? I'll tell you why, because atheism defines human life as meaningless. Atheism basically means atheistic Darwinism. Atheistic Darwinism says might is right, and that he who has the power can do whatever it wants to other people. So I come from poor, oppressed backgrounds of people, and therefore I don't like it when somebody basically says, you're not a human, you have no soul, you're just a talking monkey, shut up and do as you're told. Because that's what atheism is all about. Atheism says that life has no meaning, humans are just talking monkeys, and therefore whoever has the money and the power can do whatever it wants to the rest of them. And a lot of people are too stupid to realize that's what that means, okay? And I know the consequences of it. I've seen it. I've seen it quite a bit. I also have a lot of friends I know from Eastern Europe. I know what happened in Soviet Russia. And atheism is what makes it all possible. So when someone says, oh, they're just a harmless atheist, no, they're not, okay? They are promoting mass you-know-what side, okay? And you better wake up to that because most of you are asleep. And, not that many of you are going to make it through the great you-know-what reset coming by about 2-0 and then 3-0 as the date put forth, okay? So hopefully we will get past that. Hopefully we will. I don't know. I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to help myself. Hopefully I'll make it there, I'm not afraid of any of these diseases. What I'm afraid of is, the big money, the cow, the moon, and the East, when they come after me, there's not much I could do. I'm screwed. Okay, but while I'm still around, I'm going to teach you guys and help you as best I can. So the medical monk diet, same thing as a Spartan vegan diet. And it's basically the Mcdougall diet. I'll eat a little more fruits because I still exercise. I'm relatively healthy. A lot of these old people, they're too debilitated. They don't exercise. And then Mcdougall has them eating 90% of their calories from starch, then a little bit 5% fruits, 5% veggies. Whereas I'll eat more like 35% fruits, but I exercise a lot. Okay. And how do I view myself? Kind of like this. Here's a painting by Federico Amigo, and basically what he said was, here's the monks trying to protect this guy. It's called The Right of Asylum is the name of the painting. And basically, these men are coming to throw a rope around his neck, okay? Here is his wife begging them not to do it, not to throw a rope around his neck. And what I'm basically saying is, all you peasants, you don't understand. This is you, right here. This is you. By your ignorance, people are trying to poison you. They're trying to hurt you in other ways. And most of you don't even understand what's happening. Okay? Most of you don't even understand that the so-called deem you-know-what crat is really the American cow you-know-what, moon you-know-what, East party. And this is what the future they intend for you. Okay? So I try to teach you how to protect yourself from bad food, from toxins and stuff. I try to teach you that the great Western culture, the great civilization that existed, all the literature, art, music, and architecture, cathedrals it's produced are magnificent, the best the world has ever seen. Why would we want to get rid of that? I've tried to tell you that, the conventional medicine based on drugs is BS, okay? You can't cure anything. You can't cure any of the chronic common diseases with drugs. So here is me, the medical monk, and I've tossed the PDR, the physician desk reference, and the psychiatric DSM books into the fire. They should be burned, okay? And, don't get me wrong. There are some useful things with drugs, okay? If you're type 1 diabetic, type 1.5, you need insulin, okay? There's other conditions. If you're totally hypothyroid, you need thyroid replacement. There are situations where you need drugs, but they're far fewer. They're relatively few. Okay, and this is where we're at, and this is what it's all about. Whether anybody likes it or not, this is the fact, okay? Either atheistic Darwinism, which is really like Satanism, is going to win, and right now it's winning big. And the reason is they're smart, okay? They know what they're doing, they know why they're doing it. They want total control. What people don't understand is, imagine you're a tyrant ruler. You wanted to be able to do whatever you want. If you get rid of God and say there is no God, then basically the ruler becomes the equivalent, a so-called God on earth. And they can do whatever they want. If they want to sleep with your daughter, they can just take her. They own her like they'd own a cow, okay? And people don't understand that. They don't understand there's consequences for the belief system of the public. It's the metaphysical foundation of the public. And, it's been said in the Old Testament, and it's obviously true. You turn your back on God, God turns his back on you, and the society's forced into slavery. Right now, all this BS you hear about modernism, it is really a push for slavery. And, it's so obvious to me. I'm just sad that people can't understand this. It's like, well, what could be more obvious than this? If you just know a little bit of history. And basically, we're pretty far down the road to the great you-know-what set right here. And we're about here on the path, but we could still get back to this, where basically, Jesus Christ had it right. Be nice to each other, love one another, help each other. That what you do to the least of my brethren, you're doing to me. And Ayn Rand phrased it actually pretty well. She said, if you guarantee individual rights, you guarantee rights for everyone. And that's what we should do. But, it saddens me because what the powerful know is that they can push down this path. They want to decrease the number of people in this world because they think that way it'll be less polluted. They actually think they're doing something good, but what it means is 95% of the rest of the people in the world will have to be removed, okay? And that's what's in the process of happening. When you have an open down south border, that's not because they want to help you, okay? No country could survive that, okay? And I wonder if ethnocentrism isn't a necessity for survival of a culture. Because think about it, for example, when I was a kid, we said the Pledge of Allegiance, and also we would also say e pluribus unum, out of many one. We all become Americans. Teddy Roosevelt said no hyphenated Americans. Okay, so basically, why do I think Christianity is quite superior to other cultures? Because it produces statues like this. This is the Pietà by Michelangelo, okay, with Jesus Christ and his mother. Okay, look what atheistic Darwinism produces. It produces statues of turds. That's a modern art museum, and it is done deliberately to sever the roots of a culture from its Christian Western traditions, because like I said, they're really smart, man. I admire how smart they are, but I don't admire how evil they are. The people that run the cow, the moon, and the East. This is what they want, to degrade the people. Because when a man sees this, he goes, this is not worth defending. When a man sees this, he says, yes, we should speak up for our freedom. We should speak up for our what's right. We should speak up for beautiful art, okay? And it goes on and on. It's the same everywhere, okay? When you have a Christian culture, you make cathedrals, the most beautiful buildings ever made in the history of the world. Each little statue is like, a creative, artistic creation by an individual. Whereas when you have atheistic Darwinism, you make these ugly looking buildings that look like animal cages, and there's a statue of a turd in front. That's degrading. That's an insult. And if you don't think that's an insult, then you're stupid, okay? Okay, look at this crap. People have the nerve to say Picasso's a good artist. This is something like a high school kid could do in, their second year of art training. It's a joke. It's crap. Picasso was a cow moon east, okay? He's a piece of crap. If you read about his life, you'll see what an evil scumbag he was, all right? Now look at this art. This is sort of the late Victorian Renaissance Catholic Revival time period. This is painted by Edmund Layton. He's part of the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood. Pre-Raphaelites came out of the, John Everett Millay School of Art. They basically said they're going to be more devoted to detail, accuracy, and God than were the painters between Raphael and themselves. And then Edmund Layton was sort of a student of theirs. And it's magnificent. Magnificent. He's one of the greatest artists of all time, Edmund Layton, okay? And I love this painting. That's why I put it on the cover of the Dr. Mcdougall book. That looks like Dr. Mcdougall. That looks like Mary, okay? And the name of the painting is Godspeed. It's beautiful. So I support a culture that produces art like this. I believe we should reject a culture that glorifies this type of crap. It's an insult, okay? I support a culture that can produce beautiful literature like A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens that's all about redemption, about turning your life around, about making things good for everyone. It's beautiful. I love the Christmas music. Christianity is the light of the world. It creates, in the middle of a bleak winter, it makes people happy and joyous, okay? And the sort of generosity of Scrooge then saved Tiny Tim. It's a beautiful story. It's the best novel ever written, A Christmas Carol. You could read it in a weekend. It's like 100 pages. It's really easy to read. It's beautiful, okay? And the movie's magnificent with George Scott, A Christmas Carol. It's great. Okay, and here is Charles Dickens, who I admire very much as a writer. And believe me, I'm not a fan of England. I'm an Irish guy, okay? I'm not a fan of England, how they abuse the Irish. But Charles Dickens did it right. He was real poor growing up for a while. His father was in debtor's prison for a while. He had a pretty rough childhood, okay? But he sort of came out of it all and got himself educated and wrote these magnificent books, and not just Christmas Carol. There's other books. A Tale of Two Cities, magnificent. David Copperfield, magnificent. Oliver Twist, magnificent. The only book that sucks is Great Expectation, and that's the one they force kids to read because they want the kids to be miserable. Okay, I support a culture that can make movies like this. It's a Wonderful Life. It's beautiful. And again, what's beautiful about it is the relationship between the people, how they behave, how they act, what they do, their thoughts. Okay, whereas modern Hollywood is disgusting. It's evil. It's a bunch of action flicks with almost no dialogue. It's for retards and for third world barbarians. Okay, like I said, Christianity is the light of the world, and I will not change that because nothing will save the world other than a Christian revival, and that's why the cow, the moon, and the East want to get rid of it, okay? It takes bleak winter and turns it into a joyous thing. It celebrates the family. It celebrates the birth of the child, whereas the current system celebrates, abortion. It celebrates feminism. It celebrates divorce. It celebrates everything that is against the family. Everything that is the opposite of Christianity, okay? What people don't understand is those guys have nothing to replace this. There will be nothing but slavery and brutality, okay? You want a drag queen story hour to replace, Christianity? Are you out of your friggin' mind, okay? It's ridiculous. It's beyond ridiculous. It's evil, and they know it's evil, but they're doing it because they know it'll give them power. I grew up this way. We used to walk around singing Christmas carols when I was a kid. I used to love the Christmas trees. I used to love coming home when I was away at school for Christmas. It was the happiest day of the year. And then look at these other magnificent Christian authors and books, and they fit perfectly. Les Miserables, this one from 1985, it's like one of the most beautiful soundtracks ever made. This one from the Amadeus movie, okay? And Amadeus, I think, is my favorite movie ever about creativity. And Amadeus is, I think, pretty accurate about life. You know, when a great man comes along to try to help people, they send somebody else out to go after him and destroy him. Okay? So Les Mis, you know, you have to get the 1985 version, this exact version. That's why I'm showing you this one. It's magnificent. It's perfect. I liked every single version of Les Mis, the movie. It's like every version of the movie was great. I liked the one with Depardieu. The French version was great too. Okay, and here's what it all comes down to. This is what it's all about. Either we acknowledge that man is created in the image of God, therefore part divine, therefore entitled to privacy, free speech, and property, or we say he's a talking monkey owned by his ruler. Okay, and the default setting in the modern world is he's a talking monkey owned by his ruler. He has no soul, he has no rights, and he is owned like a farm animal. Okay, and if you don't like that, too bad. That's the way it is. And you can take your pick. You know, and society is mostly having its choice made for them out of its lazy ignorance, and that's going to have major consequences. It already has. It's only going to get worse unless people say, no, we are created in the image of God. We have a soul. We deserve to be treated, you know, like a partly divine creature, okay, with some intrinsic rights. Either you have it or you don't. Okay, Brothers Karamazov. From Brothers Karamazov, what you can learn is you can learn that Alyosha had the best life. You can see the genius Ivan was a screw-up because he didn't believe in God and it ruined his whole life. You can see what happened to Demetrius because he was a hothead, you know, sort of a third world barbarian. And you can see what happened to Smerdyakov because all he did was have resentment. And so I love Brothers Karamazov, the book, because it teaches you how to live. You can see the wisdom in Alyosha. You can see the wisdom in Father Zosima. It's a magnificent book. Okay, and I love Quo Vadis, another one of the top 5 all-time novels, okay? And you can see the transformation of Vinicius, the Roman general, out of his love for Lygia, who was a Christian, because then he came to recognize, gee, the ancient Romans were brutal and kind of evil, versus the Christians were very good, and they brought love and forgiveness into the world on a large scale. Ancient Greece had brought appreciation for the mind and poetry and philosophy and theater, you know, very good things into the world, and history, all of that good. Celebration of the mind rather than just might and brute force. But the Romans were all about power and conquest. And while entertaining for some of these movies, they're kind of a brutal, cruel people. And the contrast between them and the Christians in Quo Vadis is magnificent. It's spectacular. The psychology of the book is magnificent. It's good to listen to as an audiobook. Again, those old books from the 1800s are quite long, so unless you've got a lot of time, it's hard to read them cover to cover. It's much easier to listen to the audiobooks. And the movies are very good in those too. Okay, and I love the paintings of Thomas Kinkade. There's a reason why he sold more paintings than any other painter who ever lived, because he gave people what they want to see. This makes people happy. This is what it was like when I was a kid. We used to go over to the park and we would skate. You felt safe in the neighborhood. Parents felt it was safe to let their young children go by themselves to the park and go ice skating, okay? And all the beautiful Christmas lights. When I see Christmas lights when I'm driving home in the winter, they cheer me up. They make me happy. Christians are the light of the world. And you see what happens. You see what happens to people from other countries. Once they become Christians, all of a sudden they take on a more kind mentality, and also a mentality of not just serving themselves and their family, but of also serving their community, their country, their society, the world. You know, look at Dinesh D'Souza, look at Vishal Mangalwati, okay? Okay, look at Dr. Shiva. There's a lot of them, okay? It transforms their thinking. You know, you're part of the cause to serve good in this world. And again, all this stuff is beautiful. The best art, the best music, the best science, it all comes from Christianity, okay? Almost most of it does. If you look at the great achievements of mankind since the beginning of the history of the world, what you will see is the vast majority, the vast, vast, vast majority come from Christianity, okay? They just do. If you can prove different, show me below. Almost all the great novels come from Christianity. I would throw Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged in there, but she's really, I consider her a closet Christian, because all she ever does is praise Christian writers. Go ahead, read her book, The Romantic Manifesto, and you will see. She just loves Victor Hugo. She just loves Dostoevsky and Quo Vadis, etc. And Quo Vadis was basically the moment. Quo Vadis means Quo Vadis Domine. Where are you going, Lord? And the Lord's, this is when St. Peter was fleeing Rome because of the persecutions by Nero. After Nero had burnt down much of Rome for his own selfish reasons, he blamed it on the Christians and persecuted them. St. Peter was fleeing Rome, and Jesus Christus says to him, so St. Peter asked Christ, Quo vadis Domine? Where are you going, Lord? And the Lord said, I'm going back to Rome to be crucified again because you have betrayed your people and are abandoning them. And then St. Peter said, I'm sorry, turned around and went back to Rome. So that's a magnificent story, okay? And I think that's kind of how life is. You're not going to get away. There's not going to be any easy escape. It used to be if your country was messed up, you just go to the USA. But now the USA is messed up, so where do you go? There's nowhere to go, okay? So people better say, look, we want to keep our Christianity. We want to keep our right to free speech. Leave us alone, okay? People should say that. People should talk about that, because if you don't, it is in the process of rapidly being taken away from you. Okay, and I love Thomas Aquinas, who kind of made it pretty darn clear that faith and reason go together, and that's why science comes from the Catholic Church. That's well documented. If you want to read about it, probably the best book was the book by Rodney Stark, the historian. But Thomas Woods and a whole bunch of other ones have written about that. And this is Thomas Aquinas' vision of the Lord, where he said, Lord, I'm trying. I know I'm screwing up. And the Lord kind of said, you're doing all right. And so I like that the Lord kind of said, you're doing all right, went easy on him. Because I studied all these great geniuses and stuff. They inspired me because I was trying to figure out, I wanted to try to be a genius and do great things. So I studied all these other people who had done great things so I could learn from them. I wrote another book. This is probably, my best medical book, called The Medical Reformation and the Vegan Renaissance Bible. I rewrote all the medical textbooks. This is one of the 5 books I published this year. This one came out in January 2024. And basically, I rewrote all the internal medicine books. They're all stupid. They all basically say diseases caused by aging, partly genetics, and partly, sometimes infection, and then also sometimes socioeconomic disparity and racism. It's all bullshit, okay? If you want to hear the truth, listen to Mcdougall, T. Colin Campbell. 75% of disease is caused by poor diet, okay? And it's more complicated now that there's also toxicology involved, so you got to know more about toxins and avoid them. And there's other things that happen. Yeah, there's certain things that are rare or nobody knows. There's trauma, and there's a few other rare diseases and stuff, but that's the vast majority of it. And I go through the pathophysiology of it, the molecular biology of it, the biochemistry of it, in more detail than any other book has ever been done. All the college, grad school biochemistry textbooks are basically a joke. They teach you how to sell drugs. They don't include, like I said, the mitochondrial inhibitors and other basic important stuff. So anyways, I'm real proud of that book. It's the best medical book ever written. Go ahead, find a better one. Let me know about it. I'll read it and I'll absorb all the information. I want to be the best doctor in the world. I know my channel's not sponsored. I have no sponsors. My channel is not monetized. I can tell you, even conventional medicine hates my guts. I can tell you, even the vegan world don't like me too much. Practically nobody interviews me. A few people interview me, but hardly anyone. I noticed that almost all the survey art books suck. There's some good art books when they talk about an individual artist. When they talk about an individual artist, they will show you all that artist's paintings, and those books can be really good. I like those. By the way, I own about 200 art books. I love art. It's a long story. One of the biggest regrets of my life, I didn't learn art when I was young. So I had my kids go through all these art training. That's one of my big regrets. I could have written a couple extra books if I didn't know how to draw better myself. So anyways, what I did though was, for all the survey books, was why put all this crap in there? These cave paintings, all these broken statues. No, I just put masterpieces in here, and I organized from the ancient Greeks, the ancient Romans, the Old Testament, New Testament, the life of Christ, the childhood years, the ministry years, the resurrection, etc., the passion, etc. And then I went through the Middle Ages, the Renaissance, the Victorian Revival, Catholic Revival, etc. Anyway, so what am I trying to tell you about? In real life, this is the book everyone wants. In real life, people grab this book out of my hands. They won't give it back to me. They're fascinated. It's magnificent. It's beautiful. It's the best art book ever made in the history of the world, okay? So I made that for the people, because what I'm trying to do, and all homeschoolers should own this book, I'm trying to teach you, you don't know what you got till it's gone. Western civilization is the greatest civilization that ever existed on this earth, okay? Western Christian civilization built all this stuff, all right? And everybody in the world wants to come and live in Christian countries because they're the best in the world. Currently, all the Western Christian countries are being destroyed, every single one of them. And that's not happening to other places. Places that are ethnocentric survive. Nobody's destroying Japan, okay? Nobody's destroying India. Nobody's destroying some of these other countries, like in Africa and stuff, etc. A country that does not try to maintain its identity, that does not maintain its border, it goes extinct, okay? And that's what's happening. So anyways, these are just some of the achievements of these years, the highlights of this year. I know another big event was I got fired from the Chef AJ show. And so here's the medical monk getting yelled at and fired. And, you know, I'll give her credit. Chef AJ did me a big favor. She let me speak on her show back in a time when no one knew that I even existed, okay? I was getting about 20 views for my average video. All right, so she did me a big favor, and she let me give multiple talks on her channel. So I'm very grateful to her for that. And if she wanted to fire me, she could have fired me. She had every right in the world to do that. But what I didn't like was she lied about the reason for firing me. She said it was because I presented this drawing, and this drawing is porn, you know what, a graphic. Oh, BS. It was just a joke about Kempner, because Kempner was a ladies' man and he had a harem. And everybody in the nutrition world that studied anything about Kempner knows this, okay? Dr. Mcdougall will make jokes about this in his videos. But she tried to say, oh, I was so evil and bad because I made this silly joke. No, it was a BS joke, and she knew about it, and she didn't even care about it. She didn't care about it. I'll tell you what pissed her off. Here's what pissed her off. I made another joke, and this is the joke that really pissed her off. I brought up the fact that Malcolm X had said that he was a field Negro. Malcolm X said that American society doesn't really accept black people that well, okay, back in the 1950s, 1960s. And I joked that that's kind of like vegans. I get told by viewers, don't call yourself a vegan. Everybody hates vegans. Everybody thinks vegans are a bunch of weirdos. They think they're animal rights fanatics. They think they're, you know, fat, stupid, feminist females. They hate them, okay? Don't associate yourself with that word vegan is what I hear from a lot of people. All right, so anyway, so I thought that was kind of funny, and I thought the idea of the field Negroes weren't allowed to come close to the plantation, whereas the house Negroes were seen as kiss-ups that were nice to the plantation owner, so they were allowed to live near the plantation owner or even potentially visit the plantation owner's house. So what I joked about, my joke was, well, isn't that like the vegan community, okay? I said the real far outsider field Negro type would be like Walter Kempner with his really sparse rice diet, okay? Or these 100% raw vegans, like raw as the law. You know, Arnstein, the ultramarathon, and Ruth Heidrich went down that path. She started out on the Mcdougall diet. And then there's the ones that are similar to it, like Durian Rider and Freely, the banana girl, the raw till 4 and all that stuff. And then also my Spartan vegan medical monk stuff is a little bit too much for the average person, avoiding all this stuff, filtering water, etc. So I said, these are the field Negroes of veganism. They will never be accepted by mainstream society or even the vast majority of vegans. Fine. Okay, so I said, fine, we're the field Negroes of vegans. And then I said, there's what is called the Mcdougall diet. And this is sort of low-fat veganism, but a little bit middle of the road, more doable and sustainable for the average person. And I jokingly called it vegan extremism, only as a joke because that's what Wikipedia wrote about Mcdougall. Wikipedia totally slanders Mcdougall and says he's a vegan extremist, a vegan zealot, which I found funny, okay? And I actually called this the California School of Nutrition. And I actually think this is the most reasonable goal for the population. I put Esselstyn separate because he emphasizes eating greens 6 times a day, which is kind of a unique thing. And I think Nathan Bryan has mind control over him. I'm kind of joking. I like both of them, of course. But it's a little bit different than this mainstream stuff. So that's where I put the Esselstyn. But then, here's what pissed Chef AJ off. This is what really pissed her off. Is that because a lot of these people are her close friends. And I just said, I was trying to make the point, and as I was giving a tribute to Mcdougall, a real compliment to Mcdougall, I said, Mcdougall's not the same as these guys. Mcdougall's low-fat veganism, and I said, these guys are moderate-fat veganism, and they pretend they're low-fat veganism, but they're not. Okay, if you're promoting soy, as many of them do, and you're promoting omega-3, as just about every single one of them does, and you're promoting olive oil, as many of them do, and nuts and seeds, that's moderate to high-fat veganism. That is not the same as low-fat veganism. And all the research I've seen suggests that you want your dietary fat about as low as you can get it to prevent atherosclerosis, to prevent blood sludge, to prevent tissue hypoxia, to prevent diabetes, okay? So there's a very good reason why I say I'm a low-fat vegan. I want my dietary fat like 10% or less. Okay, and good luck getting that if you're eating olive oil and soy and omega-3s and nuts and seeds. Okay, so Chef AJ got pissed off at me about this. She edited the video. She said, I'm not going to allow this to be included in my video because this was in my original Mcdougall tribute. And then she left in the joke about Walter Kempner and Walter Kempner's harem because that was no big deal. She didn't mind that. She approved of it. And then all of a sudden, she decides she wants to fire me because she's pissed off about this. So then she probably talked to one of her friends and says, "Oh, he's a pornographer. Look at the picture he made of Kempner." It's a stupid stick figure drawing. I don't even know how to draw. There was no Jenny, you know what, Talia even visible. Okay, it was just a stupid joke. Okay, but that lists me as what do you call that guy? Anyways, the pornographer of veganism. That's BS, okay? The whole thing was BS, okay? She wanted to fire me. She could have fired me. I'm grateful to her for giving me a start, but I don't appreciate her lying about me saying I'm a pornographer, okay? I'm in real life, I'm like a recertified virgin, okay? That's how screwed up my life is. All right, animal rights vegans, lacto-ovo pesco vegetarians, flexitarian Mediterranean. These are all the other diets. These diets are totally stupid. These are for chumps and morons, okay? But anyways, that's what really happened this year. This is the big event. And then the other big event was my wife said she wants to divorce me. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, my wife's kind of like my secretary, not even secretary, a landlord, a cook. All right. And I couldn't believe it because I wish I was married to myself. I'm the lowest maintenance husband in the world. All I do is go work as a conventional doctor. Then I come home, I lift weights, and then I make YouTube videos and I write books. That's about all I do. That's about all I have time to do. So now, I don't want to move out. That's a pain in the butt. And then finding another woman's a pain in the butt because, like when you're in high school, you go to a party. You know all the girls. Everybody knows each other. You talk to each other. You like them or they like you, whatever. And you got no real responsibilities. You just, your parents are paying your bills. Your parents give you shelter. Your parents feed you. So you don't got to think about anything else. And you just like each other. Okay, everything's simple. But in real life now, it's like so complicated. You ask yourself that question, is it even worth it? I love women, but they're so complicated, so much trouble. I can talk to a guy and figure out a man in 5 minutes. I don't even need 5 minutes. I need 2 minutes. By how he talks, how he acts, what's his attitude, what he talks about, I can figure him out very quick. Is he worth talking to ever again? Is he my friend? Is he my enemy? Is he neutral to me? I can figure him out instantly. What does he do? How smart is he? How educated is he? It's all obvious to me. Whereas with a woman, it took me about 2 years to figure my wife out. Women are just, to a man, women are complicated. Because women are better at acting. They're better at playing games. They understand men better than we understand them. We like them more than they like us. So they're a challenge for us. So anyways, that's another difficulty and problem in my life. It was a big event this year. And then, of course, the most recent thing is I just published my 5th book of the year. This is in August 2024, John Mcdougall, The Doctor Who Fought for You, where I summarized all his work. And basically, I kind of did it for myself, too. I wanted to have an accurate filing system and categorization system for all his work. He's the best doctor in the world. So I want to know what he did, what he said, what he thought, how he developed all these conclusions, all his summaries of the references. He's referenced so much literature. And he's done the best job of anybody in the world. He knows the medical literature better than anyone else in the world. So I wanted to absorb his knowledge. And then I want to share it with other people. So I'll make it available to other people. I don't have any way to market it. So I don't, I'm not that well known. I don't, and people say to me, well, why don't you call this agent and this agent? I'm like, you know what? Do you even know me? I don't even have a phone. I probably got to get a phone, That's what people tell me. They go, if you ever want to date again, you ever want to ever have another woman in your life, you're going to need a phone. And I'm like, oh, crap. The reason why I don't have a phone is I see myself as being like Aristotle. In order to be smart, you have to think a lot. So most of the time, people are going blah, 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 blah all day long. And their brain, in and out of their brain is trivia. Whereas in my brain, I'm usually thinking about something. And I find that really helps me. I'm thinking about whatever it is I'm thinking about, diabetes, cancer, nutrition, or some literature or something, or some idea or some philosophy. I think that's what enables me to do it, is because I think a lot in my own head. I'm not that social. But anyways, I hope you enjoy the channel. I'm making it to try to help people. I'm also making it to show off a little bit, and I'm trying to make it a beautiful work of art. So hopefully you find it helpful.